Hello and welcome. I'm Aukse Poehle and I'm real estate agent here in Luxembourg with the brand name Bed and Roof. Today we're going to speak about increasingly important topic as Luxembourg is attracting very high talented people from all over the world. And today's topic is relocation. Relocation can be very complex and difficult, especially if you move to another country and you need to sort out the questions like housing, paperwork, administrative steps, and so on. So today we have our guest, Annemarie Wispelweij from anywr, a leading relocation company here in Luxembourg. And she helps you to navigate your family through the complex administrative steps during your time setting in Luxembourg. So Annemarie, please present yourself in a couple of words about your company and what you do.
Okay, I'm working for anywr Relocations. It used to be map relocations, and it's been over 29 years here in Luxembourg. And we've helped thousands of people to relocate to Luxembourg, finding houses, immigration process, settling in.
So you guide people who come to Luxembourg from A to Z. You take them by hand and really help them to feel comfortable.
Exactly. I always say it's no rocket science, but there's a lot of hand holding.
Great. I think that's what people need here, especially as they are not aware of the administrative steps or all the paperwork that they need to complete and so on. It's especially the language barrier because in Luxembourg it's French and German. You can get along with English, but many administrative questions are still handled in these two languages.
People underestimate that, indeed.
Okay, so let's dive in. So whether you are planning to come to Luxembourg for work or whether you are going to stay for longer here for your holidays or other reasons. So let's dive in and explore the practical questions and tips how to make your relocation here in Luxembourg smooth. Luxembourg attracts many talented people and many corporate professionals here. What do you think is the main reason these professionals decide to choose Luxembourg?
People tend to move to Luxembourg for the quality of life, the safetyness, the international hub. It's a centrally country in Europe, easy to travel, especially for people from the United States or outside Europe.
I agree with you. Luxembourg is really centrally positioned and has stability and in every aspect in work, career, and also housing. So when you come here in Luxembourg with your family, you have stability in all of your areas of life.
Yeah, especially with the schools. Now the international schools are organized by the state. It gives people the opportunity to move to make the move easier to Luxembourg, school-wise. Before we only had private international schools, and nowadays we
I agree.
state schools.
Correct. For someone who has just got a job in Luxembourg, what would be the first steps they should take before they even arrive to Luxembourg?
Okay, then there's always the work permit that has to be in place before their arrival, and it can take a couple of months to collect all the papers and everything. Then they should see the schooling if that's applicable, because the Luxembourg state has now put in place, I would say, 8 or 9 international schools free of charge. So that is very interesting, but means as well that there are waiting lists. What else is very important? Yeah, the housing. Don't wait too long because it's a very high-end market. Demand a lot higher than availability, and look at the location. Don't listen too much to your colleagues. Because every budget is different, every person's situation is totally different, and
so that's why we need to have a local experts actually on the ground to prepare our arrival here in Luxembourg. So I understand you also help to make an appointment with the schools and check availabilities.
We do.
That's a great asset. I didn't know about that, and it's like actually really added value to someone who has to want to have all in one.
We give the people how we work. We have a welcome call with the people, and we introduce them to Luxembourg in a welcome call, and we discuss the schooling, and we ask their demands. But the problem is as well that we also get people from who don't speak English.
Okay.
And then you have a problem.
Yeah,
and
indeed.
that's the whole problem in Luxembourg. If you go to the local school, you need 3 languages.
Exactly.
So that's
before also regarding the housing before you arrive, and as you have mentioned, listings are gone in a speed of the light. So you should have your credit worthiness prepared in advance. So you should have your work contracts
signed by all parties.
Exactly. You should have so that the potential landlord, if you want to rent, or potential seller, if you want to buy, could see that you are the serious person, and he will not have a problems with you, because everything is gone in a speed of the light. And that's why someone needs to really have a local expert, not only scrolling through the listings, and especially as you mentioned, not listening necessarily to the friends, because friends pretend to be experts, but at the end of the day,
they are not
really experts in that field. For them, one area can be good because they like certain amenities, and for you and your family, probably it will be another place.
Absolutely.
Okay. So moving to Luxembourg can be overwhelming when you are alone, and more overwhelming, especially when you are with the family. So what are the biggest challenges do you see in your practice working with the clients? What the biggest challenges do they face when they come here in Luxembourg?
I would say number 1 is housing.
That's correct.
They expect Luxembourg is a small country. We want to walk to the office. We want to walk to the school, and they all want to live in how I call it the golden triangle: Merel, Bel Air, Limpertsberg, and with 4 bedrooms. And the budget is making it more difficult, because landlords tend to ask 3 times the rent that they have to earn. And one of the biggest challenges we have nowadays is the trial period, that people are not accepted anymore because of a trial period. So that's a big challenge for the newcomers, because most of them come with a new job. And we see some people who it's a transfer from a company, but I would say 50% is really starting a new job. So then we have the schooling, of course, that's a difficult topic and challenging. Especially if children are a little bit older, and not confident in any languages, it can be a challenge to find the right school. If you tend to if they have the intention to stay for a longer period, to settle down totally here, then there are quite a few options, and especially the local schools are a very good option. And nowadays, the international state schools are a very good option as well. Mm-hmm. And then we have, of course, the private school, international schools, and European schools.
Like English-speaking schools only, and the schools who can offer also like a French only or German only. So it's
that's possible. And the Luxembourgish local schools will change when, I'm not sure, but to pure English, of pure French or German.
Okay. But another thing that I find also for the clients that arrive here, especially if they don't speak French or German, to integrate socially, to find, especially if, for example, if you are at certain age, to find your environment where you can feel comfortable. Is that also you see?
We see that as well. People find it difficult to socialize because of the languages, of course, as well. But as we have a lot of commuters, if people coming from Belgium, France, and Germany, I think it's around 200,000 people crossing the borders in the morning. So, and if you want to make friends, those people commute back to their home, and it's difficult to after work for a drink or something. It's not that easy to make appointments for that. And yeah, you will have what I always say to my younger clients. There's internations. That's a very good social
meeting
group, and they organize quite a few things. The American Chamber of Commerce is organizing quite a few.
British
Chambers as well, and most countries have a club here in Luxembourg.
Do you mean communities?
Communities, yes.
They meet. So basically, you can perfectly feel at home. Just need to find. So we have different countries, smaller and bigger communities, and you can integrate and.
Yeah, and there's of course for the American Women's Clubs and the British Ladies Club, and you don't have to have that nationality. Everybody can join. Everybody
if you speak English, you can perfectly join.
And what I always say, you just need one person to start with, and that will grow eventually.
And especially Luxembourg is really packed with the events.
Especially in the summer.
In the summer, already starting in April, I see that, for example, May is full packed with the events. So if you would want to participate, as I participate as well to many events, I physically cannot do it because they are almost every day and they are crossing each other, and it's really great to make a connections and stay in touch. Relocation is not only about the paperwork and housing. It's also, as we discussed, it's about social life, integration, languages, schools, and so on. So how exactly you help the clients and the families that come here to Luxembourg to really navigate all these points that we have discussed? How would, if there is tomorrow, I have a client that is coming to Luxembourg, and he has to have one contact point where all his questions are all answered. So maybe you can just give our listeners a hint what they can expect.
Yeah, but we call that service settling in service.
Settling in.
So we assist people with opening a bank account. There's 2 or 3 banks here in Luxembourg where you can open your bank account already before your arrival. So that's really great. That's a really a good.
And that's one of the biggest challenges to the banks.
Yeah, and it's a box ticked again. So that's something off the list, and that makes it easier. When they did the declaration of arrival at the town hall, they can go to the bank and get everything signed. So with further settling in, we assist also with the declaration of arrival at the town hall, if necessary, medical appointments, the TB test for the non-EU citizens. We sometimes take them shopping to the supermarket and say where everything is, because they're not very confident because most of the products are in French. So that's a bit of a challenge for them sometimes. We also have spousal support, so for the spouse who is coming along to help them their way around. I even did once a guy who was super afraid to drive here, so I went driving with him. It depends a little bit what they ask and what they need.
So basically, they put all the trust in you, and they arrive to Luxembourg, and you're really a central point for them where they can trust you with all the questions. No matter what it could be, this question, it could be even
child benefits. It's really very big of So it can be anything. It's what I said. It's a lot of hand holding, but we
and actually really having a local experts saves you not only time, but saves you lots of headache.
we take stress away. That's the main
and
job actually.
And you don't feel here like a tourist even. You start to feel really integrate with the help of the local experts, and that's, I think, that's something is a must have if you want to be worry free and focus on your work. Because if you have a corporate executives coming here and they need to focus on their work and they have highly paid job, they should focus on the job itself, show themselves in the best position rather than to run around, worry about the housing, worry about the schools and so on. So I think it's really
an added value.
Added value, and I would appreciate if I would back then would have had this service when I arrived to Luxembourg almost 20 years ago.
Me too, to be
honest. Me.
And what we do as well, that are pre-decisions services of days and orientation trips. So people come here and then we show them around the different areas. We visit some houses to give them an impression of the properties in Luxembourg, because their expectations are always very high, and now with the budget, it's not always that easy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the environment that you live in really defines your happiness. So having an expert who really knows the locations, and also, for example, I have a client who said, I'm arriving to Luxembourg for 1 year, for 2 years with my son. I have these preferences, I have these hobbies. I will work here. My child will go to school perhaps there. And I need someone to find me housing for this and this price with these conditions. So I'm working now with her, looking what is the best area, because I know Luxembourg. She doesn't know Luxembourg, and she will stay for 1 year, but I hope she will stay for longer as everybody here. And especially for these people will help. We also help together with other experts like relocation agencies, working together, helping to arrange the paperwork, but especially housing, and to prepare the dossier so that the dossier is ready, so the file is ready. Because as we say, properties are gone very quickly.
Yeah, we have to.
And if you don't have, you cannot book it over the phone, and if you don't secure it right away, and if you need to have someone also who will go to the property, inspect it, look at it, if it's good, if it's nice to live there, because on the picture it looks very beautiful. I made the experience.
True,
but when you go in there and you see what is around, then you say, oh no, I'm not going to rent this, even if it's very good price.
That's actually something we do as well. Sometimes clients want us to do video visits, so that they will make a decision on that. So that's could be an option as well, but as you say, you have to see it in person, because it's very difficult.
And especially, I think the local expert has to also speak different languages. That's a very added value.
Absolutely.
Very, really good added value, because if someone is coming, as you said, they don't speak neither French, neither German, neither English. It's also added value if someone speaks other languages.
True, absolutely. And the lease contracts are always in French. Yeah.
Exactly. But they also feel comfortable if someone is coming, for example, from Poland, or someone is coming from Russian-speaking countries, and they don't know how to speak any of languages. Most of the time they do. But they feel comfortable also if they know someone with whom they speak their language.
True. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
We have a few of our field consultants. We have different nationalities.
Yes.
Like we have an Indian lady who is very comfortable. Try to get our Indian clients to.
Okay, it's good. So that's added value.
Yeah, and I think another added value from the local expert is that we, as a relocation company, have very good contacts with the real estate agents, and we see that they give us quite often priority, and they know as well that we are always coming with serious clients with the correct budget and.
Exactly. I think that what the real estate professionals are doing, they are pre-selecting this really the paperwork and making it easier actually for the landlords, for the owners to really select because I think also the owners, they should work with the real estate professionals because for them it's head-free. All the noise is muted and only the clean files are coming in, so they don't need to make hundreds of visits by themselves. And I see the trend that people who are working in the service field and Cloche d'Or, they tend to also go towards France because Cloche d'Or from France, the border of France, is quite close.
It's a good connection.
It's really, really close. Yeah. It's and like this, the border of French border becoming increasingly expensive, and the properties are really looked after. And I have many clients who ask me to find a property across the border, just in France, because it's so close. It's the same as you would live somewhere in Luxembourg, just on the other side. But however, because of Cloche d'Or, we have the small villages and towns around Gasperich and Howald. They're evolving. They're getting more lively, and like this we create not only the Kirchberg, who is really livable, but also areas around in the south. Yeah. So when someone moves to Luxembourg, all the aspects are important: school, work, your hobbies, and so on. But I think one of the most important things is the proximity, the commute. And now we have the tram. A tram connects mostly the Luxembourg city only. However, it's important to see really the connections to the other villages. So what the tendency do you have and what advice do you give to people in respect of the transportation?
Point one, public transportation is for free.
It's for free.
That's
good news.
That's I think a good selling point. And indeed, people they have the feeling, I want to walk to school. But the further you go out of the city center, the properties are having similar prices, but you get more. You get a bigger garden, more square meters, and it's, let's be honest, Luxembourg, I call it always a village. From one point to the other point, it goes fast. It's easy to get around in the public transport. It's so I always try to convince my clients to look further than the Luxembourg city.
I agree with you, because many people who are coming as also first time to Luxembourg, they say, okay, I want to work in the live in the center next to my work. But actually, there are so many nice villages around, bigger villages,
beautiful villages,
and beautiful that offer all the amenities, from schools to shops to even the little villages in the north, in a little bit in the south, like for example Mersch, Junglinster.
And the state has put international and European schools there as well.
So international school, European schools. So we don't need to all crowd around the center, because indeed, as you said, Luxembourg is wonderful place for hiking. It has a wonderful nature. So I think if you are coming from a bigger cities like Berlin, London, Paris, and you come to Luxembourg and you expect to walk to your work, driving 30 minutes, 35, 40 minutes, I think it's a normal.
Then you cross almost the border already.
And you cross almost the border. So I think we should really encourage people to live in the smaller villages and not to be afraid of driving really 10 minutes more than, because
and even the school buses are there, and it's really I think it quite often a missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity, yes, and a good opportunity, because I remember myself. I lived in, as you mentioned, Merrill, and I worked in Kirchberg. It took me, I remember, 40 minutes to come to Kirchberg. So
By car.
I don't remember now. I also a car, and but it was different buses to change back then.
But the public transport has improved enormously.
Improved, but back then it took me 40 minutes, so I could also live perfectly either in Trier or also surrounding villages in Luxembourg. So I really encourage everyone to look around, but it's for sure more difficult to know the smaller villages. That's why you need to have local experts that really know the villages, because some villages are really isolated, but there are some villages, as we call villages, little towns, that really have a good infrastructure, that have everything what you need. So we should also.
I agree.
Thank you very much, Annemarie, for your insights. I think that were very helpful, and for everyone watching it, we gave lots of useful tips to facilitate your integration to Luxembourg, whether it's immigration questions, whether it's paperwork, whether it's housing. I hope that seeing this interview and this conversation will make you much easier your decision on how to prepare to your trip or relocation to Luxembourg, and will make your relocation much easier and smoother. And if you are curious about finding out more about the relocation and the services Annemarie proposes, so you can get her contacts in the description below. And if you are looking for any advice with the housing market, I can also advise you on these questions and help you to make your journey much smoother here in Luxembourg.